Hey, good morning. It's Pete in North Las Vegas. Hey, I'm going to try to make this a quick video on the door hinge. But before we get onto the door hinge, I wanted to discuss an automotive technique to prevent damage to your nice powder-coated control arm when you're trying to knock your ball joint out of the spindle. And the technique I use to protect the paint job on this is while you're taking your dead blow, your 5-pound dead blow, and trying to tap that ball joint pin out of the spindle, what you do is you put your thumb right here, and then you take your dead blow and then hit it, and then that protects the paint job on your powder coating. And yeah, there's a downside to doing it that way. I literally hit my thumb with enough force underneath here. I had blood splatter on the Corvette, and it smashed a hole out of the side of my thumb. And that's where all the blood squirted out of. Anyway, I don't want to get more graphic than that, but I did a number on my thumb. So anyway, like I said, we're going to talk about the hinge a little bit today, and going to put the new bushings in and at least get the lower done today. And then I'm probably going to wait on the rest of the hinges and maybe take a break from the Camaro until my thumb feels a little better. But anyway, next clip here, we'll talk about the hinges. Okay, so this is the driver's side, and you can see the orientation of the pin. The head is on the top on the actual hinge portion that swings, and then the big head for the door stop, the hard stop, is also on the top on this side. And so that means the knurling on this pin sits on the top, and the knurling for the hard stop pin sits on the top. Now they did things a little different on the passenger side over here. They have the head coming up through the bottom, and I think they did that. I think maybe it gives them more clearance on the spring, and then they did the swaging up here. So that's the passenger side. Okay, so this is the driver's side, and you can see that the pin orientation is the same as the passenger side. They have this pin with the head down below, and they got the swage section up above. But they did things different on the lower hinge. And this is the orientation. This goes up against the body, and this is going on the door, and this is how it goes. And you can see that they took this pin and they put it in with the head and the knurling facing the bottom. And that doesn't make enough sense to me. If you're going to have a swedge fail, that head and the knurling, in my opinion, would probably be better on the top, but that's for the hard stop. Now they also did the same for the actual hinge pin, and I don't know if the camera's picking it up. I'll try to hit it from different angles so maybe you can see, but you might be able to see the knurling where the old pin went. And so they pounded this pin up on the driver's side from the bottom. So these are supposed to be swedged, like I said, but I think it makes more sense to have this pin come in through the top. So if whatever that knurling fails and the pin gets loose, you know, to my way of thinking, gravity is going to keep the pin in there. Whereas if you put the pin in like the factory did from the bottom, if that knurling fails and this pin gets loose between the hinges, it's going to fall out. So I'm going to set the driver's side up the same way they did the passenger side, with the head on the top. That just makes more sense to me. So when I put this back together, I'm gonna do it, you know, the same way they did on the passenger side. I think the factory just screwed up and put these pins in upside down on the driver's side for the driver's hinge. Either that or these hinges are just interchangeable. They just put them together the way they put them together at the factory, and they don't care which side of the car they go on as far as the pin orientation. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was These mounting plates back here float, and the same thing on the door. So if you've never messed around with the hinges or the doors or whatever, just so you know they float, and you know that maybe helps you to adjust things a little bit. Okay, so the next clip I should have the new bushings tapped in, and hopefully get this pin in with the head coming down from the top, not the bottom. Okay, well that's it for right now. Okay, so before I tap the bushings in, the bushings get tapped in on the inner part of the hinge, and they come in from the outside on the inner part of the hinge. So they're going to go in here. Let me get this out of the way. They're going to go in here like this. All right, so let's get them tapped in. Okay, so I was thinking about using red Loctite on here, just something to help that bushing stay put, because the old bushings were actually rotating with the pin in the hinge. So the idea is I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of blue Loctite on here. And they sell other stuff. There's sleeve Loctite, which once it's in there, it's never coming out. I thought about red Loctite, but that's usually takes heat to get it out. So I just thought, just give it a little bit of insurance and just put some blue Loctite on there. Okay, bushings are in. Okay, so this is the correct orientation, and there's pros and cons, I think, to putting grease on the actual bushings. A lot of times these bronze or brass bushings are what are called oil-like bushings, and they're impregnated with their own lubricant. Did Classic Industries use the right materials, or was that what GM actually used? I don't know. So there's pros and cons to me putting grease in here, but I've decided just to put a little bit of lithium white grease in here. And like I said, it could attract dirt and grit and maybe possibly wear out the bushing quicker. If it is an oil light bushing, then it doesn't really need the grease. But I don't know any of this, so I'm just going to err on the side of grease. Okay, so I've got the pin in. I've just got the knurling started, and like I said, I put this pin in from the top instead of the bottom like the factory had it. And then I've got an idea on how to capture this without staking, and I'll try to find what I'm going to do. I have a part, and I'll give you the general idea. It's going to be a collar with a set screw, and so I think that's what I'm going to do rather than trying to stake this somehow, because these OEM or these OER replacement pins don't have a groove for a C-clip, or you have to stake it like the factory, and I don't have the capability to do that. So I think I'm going to do, there should be enough sticking out of the top to where I can put a collar, a shaft collar with a couple of set screws just for some insurance. But anyway, I'm going to tap this in and it'll be done as far as putting the hinge back together. Right now it's already a very snug fit. I mean, this thing barely moves, so these bushings are nice and snug. All right, let's get her done. Okay, so this knurling is a very tight fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my vise. I'm going to put a socket back here. Okay, I tried to put the pin in the way I thought it should go with the knurling and the head on the top, but it was just too much of a press fit for my vise and some of the tools I had. I thought I had an air impact punched. I don't. I had a chisel. I had all cutting devices. I had everything except what I needed to use an air hammer on that. But anyway, so I just put it back in the same way the factory had it. And then, like I said, I'm going to find a collar that'll slide over this with a set screw. instead of tack welding that or trying to do what the factory did, swage it. So that's how I'm going to put a little insurance on there in case for some reason that should try to walk out. Anyway, that's it. I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of the details as far as putting all the bolts in. But anyway, my thumb's kind of hurting, so good time to quit. All right, later. Pete, North Las Vegas. Okay, it's on. I got the door roughed in pretty good. It's a big, huge gap here. It gets tight right there. And then it gets big down here again. The bottom gap is the same all the way down. So this is just, that's how it came from the factory. Reveal line is lined up perfect. This is all flush. It can go in a little bit more, but that's just a striker issue, I think. So anyway, I got the door roughed in good enough to where I think I can get the front clip on without running into to any issues. And then when I get the car out for paint and body, we'll let the body and paint guys really get this thing fine-tuned and get all the gaps dialed in. But yeah, no slopping the door anymore. Door doesn't go up and down. It opens nice and smooth. Got to watch out for my thumb. But latch releases nice and smooth. So, like I said, I just need to adjust the striker a little bit, but it's nice. So it turned out okay. Okay, so I got it roughed in. Door needs some adjustment, but I did another video before I started this, just showing how bad the door was. And if you look at it now, there's just replacing the bottom bushings. There's no more movement in the door. So I think once I get the top bushings replaced, I mean, this door is going to be as tight as it can be. Anyway, that's it. Pete, North Las Vegas, over and out. Again, I think maybe I already said that once. I don't know.